Hi, my name is Torie, and some of you might know my story that I've just started back in April this year, and I know that it's on Bridge and on Facebook, but I just thought I'd do a video because I was encouraged by a good friend of mine to tell this story by video. So I'm going to do the best I can. You know, my style sometimes on text and emails can be a little, have some errors, as you guys all know. But I'm going to do my best, and we're gonna do this. So I also want to just let you know that you can go ahead and share this with some of your friends and family, because tomorrow I'm having surgery and I would appreciate all your prayers. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to start at the beginning because God's in the business of doing some amazing things in my life, and the details are really important. So I'm going to have some prompts here with some dates and things like that to kind of help you follow along, because those are important things. And you know, I love details. So here we go. We'll start from the beginning. All right, so back on March 31st, I found a lump. What did I do with that? I thought, I'm going to get it checked out. So then I went on in April, and I had a biopsy after I had the mammography, when they knew that they needed to take some tissue out. And so then we had a diagnosis on April 11th. It was a hard day, especially for my mom and my daughter and my son and my husband. God really gave me a lot of strength through this time, and I was just amazed at the grace that He gave me to walk through this. And there's a song that I encourage you to listen to. It's from Bethel Music. It's called Nearness. It's wonderful, and it really answered a lot of my questions. A good friend of mine, Katie Lynn, sent it to me 2 days before, not having any idea what was going on in my life. That's pretty cool. So anyway, I was diagnosed with triple positive, or I should say HER2 triple positive breast cancer on that day. On April 23rd, I had my first exam by my Minnesota oncologist, and she said it was about a 5 millimeters of two tumors together. That's how big the tumor was in my left breast. And on April 29th, I had my second exam before my first chemo infusion by my Minnesota oncologist. And at that time, she even said, you got such a big tumor. She had a little accent. It was kind of cute. So I was pretty encouraged by that. Then on May 20th, I had my third exam by my Minnesota oncologist. It was right before my second chemo treatment. This is where I'm going to stop and tell you what she had to say. Just before I do that, though, I'm going to tell you that this is the protocol for my kind of cancer, was to shrink the tumor with 6 rounds of chemo treatments, and then after that they would proceed with surgery. And at that time when I first started, it was going to be for sure a mastectomy because of where the tumor was, and that's what they said. And then after that there would be 6 weeks of radiation. This is going to take me to probably the end of the year, December, and then I would finish through April with just 2 drugs, not chemo drugs, but they'd be infusions of Perjeta and Herceptin. And that was the protocol that I was going to have, and that's what they prescribed for me. But let's go to this exam here right before my second chemo treatment. At this time, I had a lot of prayer and a lot of people praying for me, and I really appreciate all you guys praying for me. That is just huge. And I also started to eat right, a lot better than I did before. I really totally did a cleanse of sugar to cut that out. I was drinking pH balanced water. That was good for me, thanks to all my friends who helped me with that. And Jack just got lots of information for me regarding what kind of vitamins that I should be taking and drinking and things like that. And I really boosted up my immune system by doing all these things, which was really, really very, very helpful. And I know that really made a difference in the way I felt, and some great results I'm going to share with you. So on the way to this appointment, I was with Jack, and I was in the front seat, and my mom reminded me just the other day that I turned around and I said this to her. I said, Mom, you know, the doctor's going to say, I can't feel that tumor. And I just was like, that's what I said to her. My mom kind of gave me the look like, okay, like I hope so, but kind of doubtful. But I'm going to back up. Also, just a little side note, what happened was, the airplane is kind of away. So I'll just wait till it passes, because I have a few seconds. Okay, so anyways, what happened was, I I've been journaling in this journal, and I'm putting all your cards in there, and a lot of like notes and encouragement and Bible verses and just everything that I was feeling throughout the day, because the doctors told me to do that, like, you know, what I was taking for vitamins, what I was taking for medicine, so I knew what I took and things like that. And in that journal, I also wrote down how I slept at night, you know, all those details when you're sick. So my mom reminded me after this whole story's over, and you're going to get to hear the great story at the end. She said, Torie, you know, you remember telling me that many times you woke up in the middle of the night and before this treatment here, and she said, you told me that, this is kind of uncomfortable to tell you guys, okay, because there's some guys listening, that there was like some sweaty times I had in the middle of the night, and I couldn't describe this feeling. It was like, all I could say to Jack was, it feels like laser surgery on my left breast, and I kept mentioning that, and it's kind of awkward to tell, but my mom reminded me that, and so I know God was in the business of doing something those nights, because I wrote it down. I woke Jack up in the middle of the night and I told him, and you know, it was pretty significant. So I get to this appointment after my mom and Jack were driving in the car, and I said to my mom, you know, she's going to turn around and say, I can't feel this. That's almost exact words that she said. She's trying to find it. She's examining me. She says to me, can you even feel it? And I said, no. And I looked over at my mom and Jack and kind of gave them that, see, I told you so look. And then, as she's really helping me sit up, she goes, you wouldn't even think you have cancer, with her cute little voice. That's my God. He's on the business of doing stuff. They couldn't feel it after the first chemo treatment, and only 3 weeks after that first chemo treatment. That's pretty something. So anyway, May 20th, big day for me. They then did some blood marker tests, and my blood marker test went from 48 being in the having cancer before my chemo treatments started back a month ago or 3 weeks ago, to 37.5, which is in the normal range with people that don't even have breast cancer. They were pretty impressed. So at that time, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to get tested again and do some more tests and see if I could maybe do an MRI. Maybe God did the miraculous, and we wanted to give him credit and glory for that. So, but unfortunately, this Minnesota oncologist did not want to do that, and she just kind of wanted me to go through the rest of the protocol and do the 6 chemo treatments, and that wasn't sitting well with Jack or I, and I kind of felt like a cattle being pushed through like the stalls. And so what we did was, Jack actually did a lot of research and found a place in Illinois. It's Zion, Illinois to be exact. It is called Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and I'm going to refer to it as CTCA. So we went to CTCA, and on June 17th to the 21st, we started my treatment there. The doctors here were also wowed by the great response that my body has had, and that they couldn't find the tumor either, and by palpitating it. And so my 3rd chemo infusion started that time. Okay. Then July rolls around, and I come back to CTCA. This time I come alone, and I have my 4th infusion. And this time there was a little mistake, and you can read about it if you want in my Carrying Bridge time, a little more detail. But they almost gave me the a fourth drug, which is a 2nd chemo drug. So right now I was taking the Taxotere, which is the chemo drug, and then my 2 other drugs that are just hormone drugs that I'll be on until April. And they almost gave me a different one on accident. And it's what they usually give all their patients here that have my kind of cancer. But I was on a different protocol, so they kept me on that. But there was just a little mistake, but God intervened that day, and I didn't have to get that extra drug, which was good. So then in August 3rd, my 5th chemo infusion, I came down for that with my mom. She came down with me for the first time. And then on August 17th, I was at home, and this is where I sent this email. I felt a compulsion to send an email to Dr. An, and just telling him what I felt. And I'm going to read it to you because it's on the Carrying Bridge site, but some of you guys haven't maybe heard it, and I think it goes along with the story pretty good. So just a second. So, isn't it a beautiful setting here? I'm getting all this going on here. All right, here's what I said to Dr. An. Let's see. I said, Dr. An, oops, I'm having a little computer technology problem. Are you guys surprised? You guys are laughing now, all that know me. Okay, I've been believing since 3 weeks after my first chemo treatment and with many prayers that I have been healed of this breast cancer. So then why would I continue, you might be your question, which is logical. I have been waiting until I have had confirmation from God and clarity in my heart, and for my faith to rise up and truly believe. So I asked them, so does God heal through medicine? Yes. Does God heal through faith? Yes. Does God heal through laying on hands? Yes. I am not a quitter. I like to finish what I start. I am a competitor and I love victory. I thought just last week that I might just go ahead with this. What's one more treatment? But everything inside of me is not agreeing with this. So I need to ask. I need to have the conversation. I need to speak up and do the testing that needs to be done. Therefore, I would like to have the necessary testing to give credence to my conviction. So all of this time, since I believe this, I want to skip the 6th and final Taxotere infusion, which is protocol for your research on my type of cancer. And also, since I am not actually following the Taxotere and the carboplatinum that I told you that they wanted to, they almost accidentally gave me, that you have prescribed to others, I really don't seem to fit this scenario anyway. So that's what I sent to him. And after that, he called me the next day and he told me, okay, as long as you just continue until April with the other two, our antibody drugs, the Perjeta and the Herceptin. So I said, okay, I'll see you next week. And my mom and I came down, and that was here on August 27th through the 30th. I came down for an MRI, and during that time, my mom and I got to hear the results of the MRI from the surgeon, which she said back in, when I first had my MRI before I started, it was a 0.5 millimeter with the two of them together measured. And this time she says, we found nothing in the breast and nothing, I forgot to mention, in the lymph node that I had previously. Nothing. She was pretty excited. So now I could have the option of having a lumpectomy if that's what I chose to do, and then follow with radiation. My oncologist then, my appointment was the next day, and this is what I really want to tell you. So Dr. On has his meeting with us. We have a 40-minute meeting, and it was kind of getting long, so I knew it was long, and I wanted to get up and leave and help him. So I stood up, and as I stood up, he says to me, Torie, so what did you hear? And at that moment I realized he was talking about what did I hear in that email, like referring to what did I hear from God that made me send the email. So at that time, I tell him the situation and how I sent the email, and I had the unction to send the email just on that day. And he says, well, quite frankly, I was very skeptical. He talked to me about how skeptical he was, and he said, I didn't know what I was going to say to you when it was positive. And then he said, then I had to think, what if it's negative? And so he gave me the negative results. He said, less than 10% of people with your kind of cancer have this kind of result at this time in the stage of their treatment at all. He said, this is extraordinary, especially because he gives people the other drug, the chemo drug, on top of it. So I'm having less and having this great result. And so that is why I'm telling you this. And so what I want to say to you guys today is God's in the business of doing amazing things. And Jesus Christ, it says in Hebrews 13:8, is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And friends, He is wanting me to end with this verse that I had, that a good friend of mine sent to me. And I just want you to know that it encouraged me, and it's this. It's in Romans 15:13. May the God of peace may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that the power of the Holy Spirit may abound in hope. That's what I'm doing throughout this situation. I just want to say thank you for your love and your support financially, and prayers especially, all the stuff that you guys and my family and friends have done. Thank you very much, and God be the glory.